Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I've got a great guest, our state representative, Richard Raymond. How we doing today?
Good to see you.
You doing good?
Doing good, man. You know, we're in session up in Austin, and we meet every other year unless the governor calls it a special session. And so, you know, we started January the 14th. We run till the very beginning of June, I think is, if I remember correctly, the very beginning of June. So we're already 60 days into it. We finally started doing hearings. I think we got started a little late on the House side. The Senate side, they moved things a lot quicker. But on the House side, we finally started having hearings. You know, one of the bills that I introduced, and I think it was important, Paul. Like, I'm a Democrat. You know, if you know me, you know that. But last July, when then former President Trump was shot, right, in Butler, Pennsylvania, 2 days later, I went into the Capitol, I went to my office, and I ordered a bill condemning the assassination attempt and all political violence.
Absolutely.
Really. And I wrote it up July of last year. We couldn't introduce the bills until after the election, so I introduced it after the election in November. And so we're going to have a hearing on it this week in the committee I'm on, State Affairs, which is one of the most important committees. We look at all the big issues, but that's where the bill got sent to. And, you know, some people have told me, you know, well, you're a Democrat, why are you doing this? I said, that's the whole point. Shooting at a president or former president or anybody because you're upset about something politically you don't agree, that's not the way to go. And I think it's important that we send this message that we condemn that. And in fact, in my bill, I quote Joe Biden, who was president at the time, saying that we had to stop doing this. We could not put up with this. So I think it's important. It's not going to be a new law per se, but it's going to send a strong message that here in Texas, we don't, you know, we condemn any kind of political violence like that. We condemn what, you know, trying to assassinate then former President Trump, now President Trump again. And I'd have done that, you know, Paul, no matter who it was, whether it was Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or George Bush or Donald Trump.
You know, and it's a great bill, and as you know, one of the greatest presidents was assassinated here in Dallas. I mean, we have to understand that.
Yes, you go into my office, my roll top desk where I sit, right above that you've got the big beautiful picture of President Kennedy. And that's exactly right, Paul. That stuck with me from the time I was a kid that I started reading about it, and it's never left me. And it happened in Texas. And so yeah, when that happened with Trump, I just said, no man, we got to make a statement. I'm kind of surprised that nobody else did it, to be honest with you. None of the Republicans did it. Of course, now they're saying, "Oh, I wish I had thought of it." Well, you know what? It's okay. You're going to get a chance to vote for it.
Well, that's the way it is. It takes all sides, you know, and it takes all sides to come forward. And somebody might have a great idea over here, and you know what? I didn't think about that, but you know what? I'm going to support that.
Right.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Absolutely, man. That's the way. That's exactly right. So this is a small thing, but I think it's an important thing. I hope people hear about it. I hope we pass it. I think we will. I hope every single member votes for it, of course, and I think that they will. God willing, I think that they understand the message that we're sending. That we cannot condone it, and not only can we not condone that, we have to condemn it.
You have to condemn it. Now, does that go for elected officials?
It says political violence, so it says condemning the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, because he was former president at the time, and any political violence, any form of political violence. So it's like whether it's at an elected official or, you know, somebody that's not elected but they're very involved in politics, they agree with you on something or they disagree with you on something, somebody doesn't agree with you, you're not elected but you're very involved, whatever, in whatever way, you're pretty involved, you know, yourself. And so I don't want you or anyone else, because you're expressing your political opinion, you know, whether it's as a candidate or just someone who cares, that you should be worried about somebody shooting you or doing something else.
And we've had, and you know, that's actually because we've had some issues. In fact, people might not agree with some of these podcasters that are there, but we had one in Austin that was just assassinated last week. You know, Alex Jones, producer or reporter, was.
Yeah.
And now they're attacking a lot of mainstream podcasters in that sense, and it shouldn't be that way.
And it's centered around politics. That's my whole point. That's centered around politics, and so we have to. You know, I felt it was important to condemn specifically the attempt on President Trump, but also to say, or any other form of political violence, right?
Absolutely.
So that it covers all those, and that we send a message of, guys, we want people involved in the political process. We want them engaged. We want them to tell us what they think, give us ideas, stand up if you're for something or against it or whatever. That's what you want. But what you don't want is to make it okay for somebody to take a shot at you. And I mean, I think anybody who remembers when Trump got shot, I mean, it was just, I mean, he moved just a little bit one way or the other, his head would have been blown off.
No, listen, a lot of people would say that it was a half-inch away from a civil war right there.
It wasn't even a half inch, it was like a quarter inch.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
No,
just
I
like,
mean, what would have, I think the response would not have been good.
no.
And so I think the response needs to be, we have to condemn that. I don't care what party you are. We have to condemn anybody doing anything like that.
And what we also have to condemn is actual discrimination on political lines or views or
Yeah.
what have you. You're a business, or let's say you're conservative,
Right.
or you're on the left or what have you, on the right or whatever.
Right.
And they condemn your business or they go after you or,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. We have to stop that as well, because we have that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but some people feel it here in Laredo, and some people, when you mention it, people say, no, it doesn't happen. It does, and it's not how can I say it? It's not the elected officials.
Right,
It's people that work underneath and
Right.
that are in a position
right.
of damaging others, you know,
Right.
and that occurs, and we have to stop that. When we see that, we have to have some type of, like you said, not condemnation, but some type of enforcement for that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think we've just got to, I think we have to tamp it down. People should be involved, like I said, in the process. You have been for a long time, I have been for a long time, a lot of people we know. I wish more people would get involved. I think too many people don't. You know, I mean, more than half the people don't go vote during elections. And the city elections, I mean, it's even less than that. Probably 10%, 12%. It's crazy. And the impact that has on their lives. So we want people involved, right? You want them involved. You just want them to, you know, to know, hey, the rules are, you got to just be decent, you know?
Just be upfront. You know, I was talking about elections and stuff like that. There's a lot of talk about IDs on elections. How's that going? Or is Texas jumping towards that?
You know, I haven't seen anything lately. Now, I don't know, and I'm on the elections committee, so if something comes up, I'll know and I can come back and report to you. I haven't really seen what proposals have been, you know, introduced that have been specific to, you know, some kind of ID or what have you. I mean, we have right now where you've got to have an ID, you know.
For anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, even right now to go vote, you know, you're going to have to show you're a citizen and all that. So as far as anything else, I don't know yet. But if something comes up, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. What else is going on that you?
Well, one of the things I'm very excited about, and it you know, it's one of these things where you wish you didn't have an issue like this, but Alzheimer's and dementia and other brain-related diseases, but the big one is Alzheimer's. We hear about both of them kind of together, Alzheimer's, dementia. And so we have had some folks here in Laredo, and we have a very strong movement here in Laredo, specifically on Alzheimer's, right? And again, when you're pushing for solutions, for treatments, etc., it's usually, they're kind of tied in together. Dementia and Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's and dementia. So Joe Arciniega, who's a very dear friend of mine, he was on the national board for Alzheimer's. His father died of it. He took care of him the last 5 years of his life. And he's a very energetic, very innovative, and very positive guy that said, we got to do more. And he went and testified before Congress several times and so forth. But he kept telling me, we got to do something. We've got to do, what can we do? What can we do? and then finding out that Laredo has the highest rates of Alzheimer's in the state of Texas, that's, you know, obviously, I'm gonna be concerned about it.
Absolutely.
And the fact that we have what we call the silver tsunami, so there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be turning 65, 70, 75. I mean, that's coming all over the country, and Texas is no exception. So you're having more and more cases of Alzheimer's and dementia. So anyway, I was talking to a good friend of mine here in Laredo, whose wife was diagnosed, and he got very emotional. And, you know, he talked about how 20 years ago, we weren't doing as much on cancer as we are now. Like today, we're doing so much more on cancer. You have so much better chance now if you have cancer that it's not a death sentence, that we can heal you, right? Or we can do stuff to prevent you from ever getting it. Well, we passed in 2007, Paul, the CPRIT bill, the Cancer Prevention Research Institute of Texas, CPRIT, $3 billion over 10 years. That has now turned into about $8 billion, foundations and all that have come in, and we put some more money into it. So then as I sat there, I said, we need to do the same thing with Alzheimer's and dementia. We need to have the same kind of Prevention Research Institute of Texas, but dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. So I wrote up the bill, wrote it up in September of 2023. We were in special session, but we were dealing with property taxes. We weren't dealing with anything else, so I couldn't introduce it. But then, you know, and then last year we weren't in session, so once we got into November, the election's over with, now we can introduce bills for this session. So I introduced a bill in November of last year, establishing that kind of institute, and now, you know, some other members have jumped in, the Senate has jumped in, Lieutenant Governor jumped in, said it's a priority. I also put $3 billion into it. I take $3 billion so that we can research and prevent, do research, treatment, prevention of Alzheimer's, dementia, and other brain-related diseases. So we had our hearing on it the other day, last Monday, as a matter of fact, went really, really well. We're gonna pass it, it's going to happen. There are gonna be so many lives, Paul.
That can be changed.
Because it's not only the person who gets it, it's the family that's having to deal with that person, help them. It's a devastating deal.
Yeah.
So this won't be overnight, but what'll happen is, good Lord willing, I think we're gonna pass this probably either this month or next month. And once that happens, the voters, we have to take it to the voters. So in November of this year, what we have, what we call the constitutional amendment elections, it will be on there. And the people of Texas are gonna get to vote on $3 billion so we can set up an institute to deal with Alzheimer's, dementia, and any of these brain-related diseases. But those are the main things, Alzheimer's and dementia. I think the voters are gonna approve it overwhelmingly. I really do. And then January the 1st of next year, we'll start it.
You know, well, why would Laredo have such, is it?
We don't really know. That's part of what we want to do. That's part of my argument about investing more, you know, in research dollars into finding out why is it happening more here, there. It's happening everywhere, Paul. Don't think that it's not. It's pretty bad everywhere. But Laredo is #1 in the state, and I think 5 in the country. So, you know, obviously, as a state rep from Laredo, I already had an interest in it, but when I found out those numbers, my interest just went up even harder. And it moved me to help come up with this idea, the idea that was born here in Laredo. I'm very proud of it. I appreciate people like George Signea and Javier de Anda, who have spent so much time helping, you know, the Alzheimer's movement, we do an Alzheimer's walk every year. We get a lot of people that go, I go, but there's a lot of people out there. Unfortunately, they're there because pretty much everybody there, I think, has someone in their family who is suffering. And there be some people there who are suffering from it, or at this point, we may be in the early stages or something.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's usually how things, how you find out about a problem and you try to find a solution to correct it or to amend it or to help out with it.
Yeah.
And things like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Yeah.
And we need people like that to stand up. And when you never know what it is, you never know what the problem is. All of a sudden, there's one there. And then you find out that there's other people that are suffering through it, and all of a sudden you see if we can change it.
Yeah. And so I'm very excited about that, dude. I am so excited. It's gonna make a world of difference, not just in Texas, it's gonna help the whole country. Everything we've done on cancer research and prevention, that hasn't only helped Texas, it's made us a preeminent leader in cancer research probably in the world. This, I think, will get us there as well. So it's gonna help the whole country, it's gonna help even beyond the whole country, but importantly, it's, it's the people of Texas, deciding, and they'll get to decide in November, like I said, we'll have the election, and I'll be pushing it, we'll be talking about it on your show later this year, but I'll be pushing it for the people to approve it. I mean, that's gonna just take us to another level of addressing the issue, getting ahead of it, and so people in the future are like, okay, we're finding out what causes it, what can we do to prevent it, why is it more prevalent in Laredo than other places, etc.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. What else have we seen that is changing? Anything else?
Well, one of the things that I think more and more people, your viewers and others, they're familiar with AI, artificial intelligence. They're hearing more and more about it, and that's good because it's a phenomenal thing. We got to make sure that it gets used in the right way and not in the wrong way, right? I mean, you have all these businesses right now that suffer from ransomware, where somebody hacks into their computers and say, if you don't pay me $100,000 or whatever, I'm going to just delete all your records and we'll just set back a business tremendously, a school, whatever.
Absolutely.
Different things. So, AI, we got to make sure we keep it on the right track as far as using it for positive, good, constructive reasons. But what I have found out is now we have quantum. So quantum, it's quantum innovation, technology, development. Those things. Innovation, technology, quantum innovation, quantum, development. And what quantum does, it is just like AI, this is the way I say it. When you would get on your laptop, you get on your computer and you Google something, right? It might go to 20 different sources to get your information and bring it back to you. At 20 different sources. Well, AI, now what that does is when you Google something, AI goes to 1,000 sources, right? And brings in all these different things, so now you have a better informed information. You have more information, you can make a better decision, you're more informed. That's the bottom line. Quantum research and technology, it jumps it up to like 1 million. So where, let's say AI, a search on your browser or whatever, it's 1,000 different sources that AI is looking at. Quantum will get up to 1 million. You know why? Because quantum is researching down to the molecular level. And I don't mean to sound like I'm back in high school in a science class, but what it means is we can study everything to the very, very molecule. Well, what that means is we have more sources, more information to be able to do things more effectively, to be able to do, whether it's things like, you wouldn't even think about this, logistics. Logistics is so important to Laredo because we're the busiest port of it, for trade in the country and in the Western Hemisphere, Paul. Well, with quantum research and development, you can figure out ways to do logistics better, more efficiently, get things out more quickly, save money when you're doing it. It's incredible, but you can also do it for when you're researching drugs. Heck, it's probably going to help us on the Alzheimer's stuff. Because now we can, again, when you can research to the molecular level, what's going on with people in Laredo, we can get to the molecular level and find out what's going on here that is leading to that. And so I found out, we're working on the state budget right now, and I found out when I got briefed on quantum that the state of Maryland has already invested, I think, $200 million. Colorado, California, New Mexico, their legislature is looking at a proposal for $800 million to do quantum research and development in New Mexico. But we didn't do anything. Texas had not done anything at all. So I wrote up an amendment to the appropriations bill, we call them riders. And I said, I want to plant the quantum flag in the state of Texas. I want us to be ahead of everybody else on the research. And so I've made it for $1 billion, $500 million to the University of Texas on their research program for quantum, $500 million to Texas A&M. Obviously, we could get some here at TAMU. So I put that out, and I immediately started getting people saying, yeah, you're right, we got to do this. Well, nobody had done it. And we were going to do a budget, and nobody had put anything in on quantum research and development. And you got states like New Mexico, $800 million that they're looking at? That's crazy, man. I mean, nothing against New Mexico, but, we're 32 million people here, dude.
We should be on top of everything that's going on.
I mean, something like that is going to impact the future so much, right? It's going to impact the future so much. And right now that we have a surplus, we can pay for it, and it's not $1 billion that's not a lot. The return you're gonna get on that, oh my gosh, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, one thing that, and not only that, we have one of the greatest minds now here, what's his name, Elon Musk, which is now doing that.
You know,
Look what he did on,
Well, you watch, he's gonna get a wind of what I did, I think, cause I've been trying to put it out, like, here with your podcast and other things. I'll put it out, but he's gonna realize at some point, cause knowing that, he's gonna go, what? Texas hasn't put any money into quantum? What? Well, they might now, cause I put up a proposal for $1 billion. 500 million University of Texas, 5 Texas A&M, get all the Aggies and Longhorns to come together and say, I make it this simple. We wanna plant the quantum flag in Texas. And I met with Governor Abbott on Monday to talk about this. And he said, I totally am with you. He said, it's embarrassing. This is what he said. It's embarrassing that New Mexico is thinking about that and we haven't done anything. He said, we have to do it. We're gonna do it. You know, I told him my proposal was $1 billion. He didn't say no. He just said, yeah, we're going to do it. So I'm hoping that, I hope that it isn't a billion that we come in.
absolutely. And yesterday what they did, rescue those astronauts with him, you know, he parked the rocket, parallel parked it. Hey, let's use that. You know what I'm saying? We got people here that can't park on a parking space and they parking rockets.
But quantum research and development, that's gonna make it even everything. I mean, space travel, you will be able to do things even more efficiently. And they spend so much money on these rockets and so forth, which are very important. But the more we can figure out how to do it better, and in the end it actually costs less, that's just incredible. I mean, that's where we gotta go. And I just found out about it, so I'm like, I wanna bring attention to it. The governor was like, you know what, so I did my bill, that proposal on Friday afternoon, and he said, well, coincidentally, on Friday night, I had dinner with the top 10 quantum research people in the country, and he said, you're right, we're behind, we gotta get on it. So, I was very excited.
We have to start building towards that.
Yeah.
We have to start building towards making Texas the best, number one.
Yeah.
You know?
But we gotta keep working on other things. You know, I'm a big pusher, I'm a big proponent, and I push for property tax relief. I'm gonna keep doing it. We passed the biggest property tax cut last time. My name was on that bill. I'm very proud of it. I worked hard at it. We're gonna continue to do that.
What's going on now?
Well, we're gonna pass another property tax cut. I'm hoping that last time it was 18 billion. My proposal was 20 billion, the compromise was. You know, when we started, I did a $20 billion property tax cut, and they're like, oh, no, that's too hard, no. I started telling the Republicans, hey, I thought you guys wanted to do property tax relief. Yeah, but 20 billion, you know? They were talking about 10, 11. Anyway, we ended up doing 18 billion. So this year, of course, I would like for us to match that 18 billion again, but I think we're gonna do a minimum 10, 11, 12, something like that. I don't know yet, again, because we're pretty early in the process, but I'm gonna keep pushing it. I think it's very important.
I've heard a lot against removing school property tax.
Yeah, well, there's some proposals want to do away with, period, like no school property tax. Hell, I'd be for that if we could pay for it, but the lieutenant governor, who was a very conservative Republican, he said, obviously he pushed property tax relief too, we worked on that a lot, but he said to do away with it completely would cost so much money that the state can't cover that much. But what we've been doing, obviously, is the most that has ever happened, not only in Texas, but anywhere in the country. So we keep pushing it. There's some guys that say, oh, let's do away with it completely. I'd be for that. I'd be for it in a heartbeat. But that's like, I don't even remember how much that is, 80 billion, 90 billion, I can't remember. It's a very high figure. The lieutenant governor looked at it and said, we can't get there, that's too much, but we can continue to do what we started 2 years ago.
And cutting it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I've heard both sides, remove it completely and some that we shouldn't remove it. And
Yeah, no, we should continue to lower it as much as possible to give relief. The state should be paying more. That's what I pushed, that's what we did. It lowered property taxes here. We're going to, I think at minimum, one of the things we're gonna do is increase the homestead exemption. We increased it to 100,000 last time, which was a big deal because it jumped from 40 to 60 to 100, so 6,000. This year we're gonna increase it again. I think it's gonna be at least 125, maybe we'll get to 150. You know, I'll be pushing hard. But we're gonna increase the homestead exemption. That's gonna help a lot of people here in Laredo.
Absolutely, and the reason I say that was they were talking about these individuals that were talking about that we all pay income tax.
Mm-hmm.
That's federal. And apparently by paying income tax, that also paid for the school districts because of that. And I was like, unless you can break it down, it's a nice theory what you're talking about, but so that meant that we're paying double. We're paying the school tax double, once to the federal government and then once for the property tax. And I was like, man, no, there's something there that's
the federal,
it's not connecting correctly.
yeah, the federal taxes we pay, that's not used for property, for local school districts. Some schools get a little bit of federal funding, but the great majority of the funding to run our schools is gonna be state and federal, state and local, and too much, in my opinion, too much on the local part of it. The last time I think it was at 55% of the funding for our schools came from local property taxes and like 45% from the state. And we've been shifting that where I want the state to be paying more of it and for our local property taxes to be paying less of it.
Absolutely.
So,
Because, we need it.
yeah.
I mean, we need it. We're gonna double our population very shortly, very quickly.
Texas, the whole state of Texas, man, we're gonna go, it's incredible, Paul, how much we're growing. But we should talk about the grid. So the electric grid, I'm very, I sit on the committee that has oversight of that. It's called the State Affairs Committee. I'm very concerned about it because we are growing so much in Texas and we don't have enough power plants being built. We have a lot of power plants that are really old power plants that they're inefficient. They're gonna get shuttered at some point. I'm very concerned about that. So like last session, one of the bills that I pushed and we ended up passing was to take $10 billion of property of surplus and use it to do low interest loans so that people will come in and build more, generation power plants, and so power plants that are generating electricity and that we can distribute, right? So that has started. Those have started going out, and we're going to start seeing them built. However, the rate of our growth, it just really concerns me, man, because it's hard to keep up with the demand, especially if you have a hot day or a cold day, right? The demand is so big in the state of Texas that it's you got to be worried about a blackout, brownout and blackout, whatever. So we continue to push on that. We want to build more infrastructure. We want more power plants. I think you're going to continue to see growth in batteries. The battery business is really going up a lot, where you can store energy in those batteries. We're talking about big batteries, obviously. So that, I support that as well, and I think that's gonna help us. Renewable energy, you see more and more. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe programs towards houses. We have to start putting more solar into houses. I think the state should come up with something towards that.
Well, at the federal level it's being done. There's a program that's pretty strong in terms of renewable energies, and so that's still there, and that's gonna be there for a few years. That's going to help too, because you see that growing in Texas, more renewable energy going up, whether it's batteries, whether it's solar, whether it's wind. You see more and more of that going on. That's going to help us as well. And so, we're getting there, but I am concerned because we get reports that over 1,000 people are moving into the state every day.
But look at Laredo. If you look at Laredo, it's the population's what 260 or whatever.
It's close to 300.
But there's about probably 75 that we're not counting.
Right.
But when you look at it, it's spread out. It takes a long. It's different. In area wise, it's big.
Well, you're hitting on a very important point, which is transmission. So not only is it an issue that we got to build more power plants, man, we are behind on the transmission, and the companies are out there trying to keep up with it. But we have to build transmission lines. Because how do you move the energy if you don't have a transmission line?
And that's going to get us with a lot, not only with the energy, with the water, with all the other infrastructure. Because Laredo's doing this.
Yeah. No, Laredo. It's exciting to be here. There's so much going on. There's so much opportunity. I think that it's just an exciting time. But it brings challenges, right? Making sure you have all these things that you need to allow that growth to happen, that development to happen, and people that graduate from high school and that they want to stay here. Maybe go to TAMU, maybe go to LC, maybe become whatever it is, whatever they want to do, but that they stay here. Well, we got to make sure that we're meeting the needs for that growth for people that want to stay here and not go off somewhere else.
Also, how about small businesses? Anything coming up towards small businesses here?
Well, I mean, I think this is important for small business. The property taxes is a big deal for small businesses, a big deal. And then I think making sure that we do have the grid where it needs to be, the electric grid where it needs to be, so that those businesses can, two things. One, that they continue to pay lower rates. We have the lowest rates in the country, that they continue to pay that lower rate, but also that they can grow and know that that energy is going to be there. So those are some of the things that the small businesses are really interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we have, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to protect the small businesses that we have.
We got to keep growing, give them a chance to grow. I mean, you want them to succeed, but if they succeed, usually, Paul, they're going to grow. And that's what you want. That's more jobs. That's more, I mean, it's good, you know. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway.
Anything else?
No, dude, I mean, I'll come back. We'll be doing some more stuff, but I'm headed up to Austin. When we finish here, I'm going to hit the road, up to Austin. It was, real windy these last couple of days. I can tell you that, man.
Well, how about the fire in the hill country, no?
Yeah, they had, unfortunately, fires have become when you have a fire and the wind takes off, one of the things that we're dealing with in the State Affairs Committee is we're dealing with the Panhandle wildfires, remember from last year?
Mm-hmm.
Millions of acres, I don't remember how many, so it's just terrible. And how many homes were lost, more, acres and acres and acres that were lost where cattle, it's gonna take them from 2 to 3 years. You had a cattle business to come back because for the vegetation to grow again.
Or the cattle lost?
Absolutely, and it was all because wind knocked down this one pole that should have been replaced. One pole that should have been replaced, and that didn't replace it. So it's like one little thing like that, Paul, could cause these millions and millions and millions, probably billions, I think, amount of damage. It's going to affect the whole economy, because if cattle that would be coming there, it's not there now. That means the price is going to go up. Things like that. So, we don't want. We had testimony on this. We don't. That happened in an area that was lightly populated. You can imagine it can happen in the highly populated areas as well.
Absolutely.
If we're not careful. And what that's going to mean, like what happened in California, right? I mean, that was populated areas and people got killed and businesses got burned. It wasn't out in the country. Most of it in the Panhandle was out in the country. It was still devastating. But imagine if we had a wildfire like that in Laredo or in any of these places, man. I mean,
It's gonna cut right through everything.
absolutely. So,
And we need to be very careful with that because it can happen.
Yeah.
Just a simple accident like that one, or
if there's a pole that needs to be replaced, you replace that sucker. Because if they put a tag on it, is what they do. If they put a tag on it that this one is in danger, then you got to replace it, dude. Because the wind comes, it knocks that down, the electricity starts a fire, and then that's all she wrote.
and who's to blame?
Man, what the testimony showed was that the company that gets hired to go inspect them, that they put on there, hey, this one needs to be replaced. So they told the company it needs to replace it, and they didn't replace it in time. So, man, I mean, I think part of what we were talking about, and I talked about in the committee hearing, was, look, I think we've got to tighten up the law that says if you've identified, number one, you have to inspect them a certain amount of times, but whenever you identify one that's tagged with a red tag, it needs to be replaced, then we need to make it like almost an emergency. Hey, go replace that. We do it here if something happens. If a light goes down at one of the intersections here is not working, man, they go fix that sucker fast, right?
They should. You know what I'm saying?
They should.
They should.
Yes.
It should be kind of like an emergency law or something.
Yeah, we have to tighten up to say, hey, you get notice of this, you gotta go change it, fix it.
Is there any way you can? I hate to say this, but is there any way you can? They get charged for it if they don't fix it.
Oh yeah,
like a penalty.
you're gonna see that. I think you're gonna see, hey, this happened and you knew about it and you didn't fix it.
This is how much you owe.
And this is not only are you gonna pay civil, I think you're gonna look at something more strong than that. And that's what's being talked about, right? So we'll see, but believe it or not, that's a big one because it affected so many millions of acres. And you remember it wasn't that long ago we had a big one in Cotula, outside of Cotula, where thousands of acres got burned.
Well,
Bastrop, which outside of Austin.
Well, right now there's one in the hill country, I don't know where exactly, but right now, one's brewing, I think it's 6,000 acres.
Yeah, well, and again,
You know, so,
it can happen anywhere.
and anyway, and it'll take off, the wind's gonna take it.
And like now in the hill country, you have all these wineries, I haven't seen, but I wouldn't doubt if some of those got hit. I
Yeah.
hope they didn't, but the chances are, the Texas Hill Country now has become a really big winery destination, right? So, you gotta figure the chances are some of those got hit already. Well, that's devastating. Those grapes, when they plant those trees for grapes, it takes 5 years for them to be able to use it. You burn those suckers down, they gotta start all over.
Absolutely.
5 years, they ain't gonna make any money.
These are preventatives that we have to, and they have to be, the person that causes it has to be liable for it.
People need to be aware of how important it is that if you're gonna be in this business, where you got poles, or you got lights, or you got, electricity is fire, that's what it is, going through wires. And if you're gonna be in that business, you have a certain responsibility to your community, and understand that.
Absolutely.